Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Can we talk about Gem and the Holograms? Yes, this is the debut episode of Can We Talk About Gem and the Holograms, or Swatage for short. CWTAJ. I think. Does C&W make a sw sound, Kristen?
You know, I'm not in the business of pronunciation.
Yeah, I'm sure in some language it does, so Swatage. And
It does now.
I'm the peanut butter of this equation. My name is Joe. And with me, as always, is the jelly.
I'm the jelly, that's great. I'm Kristen.
We are here to talk about the 80s classic, in air quotes, Gem and the Holograms. Would you consider Gem a classic, Kristen?
It's hard to say, because I've had people try and tell me, our mom specifically, that Gem was a part of my childhood, which is wrong because I was born in 1993.
Right, and it was well off the air by then. I mean,
so
Gem...
I don't know Gem's place in the world anymore. And I don't know my own place in the world, so...
Well, I mean, you gotta think, Gem was popular enough to get a movie that just came out about a month ago at this point, which I believe...
We went to go see the night it came out.
And there were probably 5 people in the theater other than us.
There was one little girl.
One little girl, yes. So that shows you where Gem is in the history of everything. But I think that really we need to bring the ridiculousness of Gem to the forefront. You know, this story of a girl and her record company and her band and her supercomputer and a rival band and the orphans that she takes care of. There's a lot of stuff going on in Gem that we'd really like to just kind of just it's gotta pop.
It goes deep, man.
That was pretty much just a rough overview, but let's get into some actual history here. Gem is a cartoon that was made by Hasbro, who, at this point in the 1980s, had enormous success with G.I. Joe and Transformers. The idea for Gem started as, kind of a boy band kind of show, but Hasbro was like, we need something to compete with Barbie, so let's just make a show about a girl band. How about?
Girls like girls.
Girls like girls, why not? And, because of that, and Hasbro is just, this is very 80s to where Hasbro was like, I don't know if boys are going to want to watch a show about a girl band, so let's just, kind of put it in the middle. Let's break it up into sections. They ordered 5 episodes to start in 3 sections. It was put between 2 boys shows on a show called Super Sunday, which, it was just a little 8-minute segment chopped up in there, and in order to make the boys want to watch it, they kind of added in a lot of kind of cliffhangery stuff and a lot of action that, the boys would want, that they'd, sit there and be like, oh, what's this? And the little girl would watch and she'd want to buy, the doll toys.
The whole point being, we don't want the boys to leave the room.
Right, which...
We need to keep them there by putting these cartoon girls in peril. In really exciting, screamy, fiery peril.
There's a lot of screamy, exciting, fiery peril going on. And after the initial success of that, it got ordered for an entire series, but that's besides the point, because we are starting at, quite literally, the beginning. Gem. Episode 1. The beginning. Should we talk about the theme song? I mean, now would probably be as good a time as any to talk about the theme song for Gem.
Yeah, I wrote down a thing about that, actually. My friend Madeline, who you know, when we were watching Gem over the last time I was home, she was watching the opening theme and I believe called it obscenely rotoscoped, which was a phrase I really liked.
That's true. I mean, it actually was rotoscoped, though, which, makes it all the better. Which there was a lot of nice animation, the animation that you probably don't get in the series itself, but it's, it's really...
not.
It's really, it's probably the most iconic part of the Gem series itself is the theme song, which it tells you everything about Gem. Gem is excitement. Gem is adventure.
Before I knew a lot about the series itself, thanks to, I Love the 80s, I remember, is where I believe we both first heard of the series.
I think so.
When we were big into VH1 shows back in the day.
Back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, seriously. I remember most of what they showed was just the theme song and, people sitting there and going, Jem is truly outrageous. Truly, truly, truly outrageous. And I'm like, oh, that's funny, I guess.
And that's really all that's probably, if you asked people what Jem was about, they'd go, well, she's outrageous, truly, truly, truly outrageous. Or they might miss a truly in there because, who's going to remember 3 trulies?
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be reasonable.
Yes, and okay, so starting off the episode here, which is what is this, like a flash forward, or I guess a prelude to a flashback, I would think, right?
It's a flash forward that shows how everyone's already super famous.
Yes, because the Rockin' Roadster pulls up, which is the name of their car, which we'll see a little bit later. And it has its top up, by the way, so I don't know if this is actually the same Rockin' Roadster, which is a convertible.
I noticed that too.
I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, they pull up and everybody's chanting for Jem. And then they start chanting for the individual members as they come out, Aja, Shayna, and Kimber. And they're very coordinated with their chanting, but they're not really, chanting correctly. But there they are, and out comes Jem into the limelight, if you will. And she starts us off with an amazing line, which really sets the tone for the series.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how it all began with the unexpected death of my father.
Yeah, that really does more than you might think set the tone for what's to come.
Like, honestly, it's almost ridiculous that you're starting out with this and then it's just like, my father's dead. What? Huh? What? How did we get here? What? So here we are. It's a flashback. We're at Jerrica's father's funeral, and it's such an odd place to start. And we get the introduction here of a character, Eric Raymond, who is the primary antagonist of the series, acting very amicable towards Jerrica, like, being like, hey, I know your father's dead. I can help you out whenever you can. And
still managing to sound slightly evil as he does this.
Yeah, kind of. There's an edge of sinister in his voice, but he still sounds like he actually wants to help. And in comes Rio, Jerrica's boyfriend Rio Pacheco.
My favorite.
Kristen's favorite character, kind of knocking Jerrica to the side and being like, hey, buddy, Jerrica could deal with her own problems.
Yeah, so being the supportive boyfriend by pushing away offers of help.
And even then, Jerrica's like, hey, I'm sorry that Rio's an asshole. Like, okay. Fat lot of good that does. Maybe that's why Eric Raymond's such a bad guy, because Rio was an asshole to him that one time.
I believe that. I have a long and storied, I guess it's a one-sided beef with Rio since he's fake, so this is really my problem when it comes down to it. But man, he is the worst. The worst.
He's the worst. We'll see over the course of the series just how bad he is. He's not too bad in the first episode, other than right there.
But I was telling you, I was surprised. In my notes that I was taking, I put Rio is already starting fights. This was something that he definitely evolves into more as the series goes on. So the fact that it started so early with him just being like, "Hey, shitbag," is surprising to me.
It's a little weird, but okay. So that was the funeral. Now we go to the current Starlight house, which is in a state of complete disrepair. Rio's fixing a light, wearing shitty overalls. Aja's has a drumstick for some reason, even though she's not the drummer. I don't know if we should say, but Aja's the one with the blue hair. So obviously filling that stereotype quite well.
Yep, and the accent that's vaguely racist.
Right,
it fluctuates.
I definitely have written around here that for these first few episodes, Aja has no idea what her accent is supposed to be.
No.
So you'll notice she might sound kind of like Asian sometimes, but eventually I think it just evolves into normal English, American English kind of accent.
Basically no accent whatsoever aside from, just the general weird. We're voice actors and we're not sure how speaking is supposed to sound.
Right, I think they kind of stopped trying because, what was the point at that point?
Yeah, so it has the drumstick and is not the drummer.
Yes, and, some crazy chaos happens. Rio gets knocked over, the light explodes, Jerrica's faucet under the sink just ends. Oof.
These foster children are ruining her life.
But this old woman who disappears after her first 3 episodes is just like, your father, he owned a record company that you could probably get some money from, which she became co-owner of after his death with Eric Raymond. So she's like, oh, great. Let me just go get some money from the record company that I own.
Like it's a bank.
That I never bothered to go to before.
So I own part of this, but...
I mean, there was an undisclosed amount of time has passed since then. It could have very well have been a day since her father's funeral, and it could have been a few months. It's just she's in this terrible house that's it's in a horrible state, and she never thinks, well, I don't have a record company. Maybe I should go get some money.
None of these people have jobs. I should point that out.
That's the other thing. Rio is just kind of a general handyman. Aja, Shayna, and Kimber all don't have jobs. They have a bunch of foster children that obviously don't have jobs.
They make it seem like they are supposed to be adults, Jerrica being a co-owner of this very big company. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what would help this situation with all these foster children? If we had some money.
As if it was this big revelation. I would assume that maybe they were living off inheritance until then. Like maybe, I mean, Jerrica's dad was obviously, like when nobody has a job and there's like 6 foster kids, wouldn't you?
Orphans are hungry.
Orphans are hungry. They get hungry very quickly, which is really, that's the only downside to orphans, I would say.
Yeah, the only one.
The only downside to orphans is, man, they gotta eat.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway...
Might as well just get a cat.
Jerrica takes a trip to Starlight Music, and everything's changed there. You know, the old security guard is being a jerk, even though she owns half the company. Even, I guess, Eric didn't make it obvious, which I don't know why he would, because he's incredibly evil, as we'll see in a few minutes. Yep. But he fires the old security guard, he fired the old secretary. Jerrica barges into the office there, which still says Emmett Benton on the door, by the way, which I don't know when they name drop Jerrica's dad after this, but I think it's a while.
Yeah, it took long enough that when we were watching the movie and they were saying, oh, your father, Emmett Benton, we were like, is that actually his name?
Right. I do not remember at that point, but...
They don't bring him up until it's convenient for Kimber to be really sad about him being dead.
Right, but at least they had his name at that point. I mean, those little signs that are there, it was always on the table.
It was less of a, oh shit, he needs a name than we ever thought it was.
Right, yes, exactly. So Jerrica bursts into the office, and Eric looks like the devil.
Yep,
he is drawn, and he looks evil, and he looks like he needs a pitchfork and a tiny mustache, because he looks
like, as I was saying before, he looks like the devil disguised as a businessman in cartoon form.
Which, given Eric Raymond and what he does throughout the series, that would be pretty fitting. Jerrica needs some blame here, too, because, you know, she walks in and just, like, hands on her hip, she's like, give me money! I want money! And
that's how business works.
Eric, being a businessman, is just like, this is a business, and you're a child. Please don't. Except a lot more evil than that.
Yeah.
And, but he plans on big things for Starlight Music, because he just signed the world's hottest band, I would assume anyway, because, well, New Blood is what he refers to them as.
I wrote down here, are they famous yet? I don't know.
I mean, they have to win a battle of the bands, but they are New Blood, and they are coming in on guitar motorcycles like a house of fucking fire, the Misfits.
Yep, terribly animated.
Yes, that too. Eric does a nice job of naming everyone for a nice freeze frame as they come in. Pizzazz with the blonde hair, Roxy with the white hair, Stormer with the blue hair. They circle around Jem and just, you know, cause a general ruckus. And really, their characters are established pretty quickly, even though, you know, Jerrica's pissed here because she is just... I don't know what beef she has with the Misfits already, other than, I guess, riding guitar motorcycles into her father's office.
She calls them trash.
Which
is not a great first impression to make with, like, her peers.
No, it's not. And, I mean, we get the personality of the Misfits pretty quickly because, you know, after Jerrica's like, you know, get him out of here, you know, and Roxy just goes, you know, why do we have to listen to you? We're the Misfits. And Jerrica basically invites death on herself because Pizzazz asks, you know, you better get out of here or else. And Jerrica's just like, or else what? Which, once again, there's the trigger. That's the wrong thing
to say to Pizzazz. They learn eventually.
That is the moment. If Jerrica was just like, excuse me, I'm going to take my leave, we would never have this problem with the Misfits for the rest of the series. They could have avoided multiple murder attempts. And But nope, Jerrica just has to be like, what are you going to do about it? And that brings
realize that Pizzazz has the devil inside her.
And not just, you know, the Eric Raymond devil, just the actual...
No, the actual devil.
She is a horrible, horrible person, as we will come to find out. But we start with our first song here that shows the Misfits who they are, the aptly titled Out of My Way, which features the lyrics, you know, such great lyrics such as, out of my way, keep out of my way, out of my way, keep out of my way.
You're going to notice a pattern with Misfits songs as the series goes on.
I feel like
little to no rhyming.
I feel like they get better, but there are definitely a lot of Misfits songs that are, you know, here's a point we're trying to make. We're going to say it about 50 times.
And Pizzazz doesn't sing so much as chants.
Does she need to? They're a good band. That's the thing. I mean, it's not that Misfits songs are bad. They're just simple.
Yeah.
And even though they're like a minute and a half long, it's still just a complete slog sometimes. I mean, at least you have interesting visuals to help out because the guitar motorcycles fly out the window at some point. And Pizzazz looks like she's going to murder Jerrica with a hammer. For some reason, there's like a general carnival theme going on with the music video. Out of My Way has nothing to do with the carnival. I don't know if it's the guitar motorcycles that are like influencing this.
I wouldn't read it too deeply.
I know, that's the thing. The music videos have very interesting visuals. It's one of the
iconography gets wacky.
It does. We watched a little documentary on it, and they had a completely different person storyboarding the music videos, which is why they look so, different compared to the rest of the series. It's one of the best parts, I would say, of the series is the music videos, and this one's just odd, I think, in a lot of ways, because there's like I said, there's the carnival kind of amusement park theme, and there's at one point where I forget whom it was, either Roxy or Stormer, just throws a baseball at like the milk bottles. Mm-hmm. And Pizzazz's face is on the baseball, knocking over, and Jem is like standing on top of the bottles, and it
gets a little druggy.
Most Misfits music videos are kind of druggy compared to the Jem ones, which are more traditional.
They start turning into Pink Floyd's The Wall.
A bit, yeah. They surf, like, they're in their normal kind of amusement park stuff for most of it, and then they just kind of surf by on surfboards, and they're all wearing, one-piece swimsuits.
Because why not?
And I guess because why not? And then it's
Get out of their way, they're surfing.
Right. And the song ends, and we're back to reality, and it's kind of one of those things where it happens so fast and you're watching it, and then you don't realize, like, wait, what was that? What happened there? And it's just, we got to get back to the story now, because there's a story to tell. And
here's the music. Now, back to the story.
So here's where we learn that Eric Raymond is putting together a battle of the bands to make the Misfits famous, presumably. But I don't quite understand. Like, he's rigging the battle of the bands too by just putting a bunch of stupid, terrible bands in there. And Pizzazz even points out, like, we're better than all them anyway.
I can't remember if it's Roxy or Pizzazz, but they like very boldly end up claiming, like, we'll sound great by comparison.
But they in universe they sound good already. So
yeah.
And I'm really surprised that this fact didn't just like completely piss off Pizzazz.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think she of all people would be like, we could do it without any, cruddy cheating going on.
She certainly becomes less and less willing to deal with things that undermine the presumption that they are talented.
Yeah, so this is kind of odd. I mean, it is the first episode. You can kind of forgive these things. This is when Jerrica calls the Misfits trash, and she leaves the office in a huff because, what's she gonna do when, the Misfits just, dunked on her, basically, and she's got nothing. She's gonna lose all of her orphans and her house and all this stupid stuff.
Situation desperate.
The situation has gotten very desperate. So we go back to Starlight House at this point. Aja is wearing her safari gear for some reason.
I noticed that as well. She is super into the safari gear. That is a consistent look for her.
And hey, it's not bad. I noticed, the fashions in this show are another thing that's really kind of odd, as we'll see throughout. And Aja wearing safari gear, I think, is it's sort of the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that Kimber very casually just kind of comes over like, oh, this came in the mail for you today. Like, yeah. Like, I don't know what was with the line read on that one, but it was obviously like, I
brought the plot. Yeah,
she brought the plot. Basically, like, I have written down here, plot device came in the mail.
The mailman gave this to me and said, the writer said, give this to Jerrica.
To which there's some lovely star earrings, which are another iconic piece of Jem and her wardrobe. She puts the earrings on. The weather must be bad that night because the windows fly open.
For no reason.
And then purple Olivia Newton-John appears.
Uh-huh.
Who is a synergy, and the big
she flips
cliffhanger.
In and says, "Let's get physical."
She says, "Let's get physical," and Jerrica Benton, I've come for you, which is, that's a pretty good cliffhanger to end on for that section, I would think, because like, what is with this terrible purple ghost that came to presumably, kill everyone?
I have come for you sounds like what the Grim Reaper says to you,
right?
Before he's gonna take your soul.
Given the art direction of this show, I would not be surprised if the Grim Reaper was purple Olivia Newton-John.
He's ready to take Jerrica off to the purple 80s river Styx.
Yes, which really, there's a lot of synthesizers there. That is what the actual band Styx is there.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Playing Mr. Roboto.
And that's what hell is like.
That is what hell is like, is you gotta listen to Mr. Roboto ad infinitum.
And Olivia Newton-John is there.
Saying, let's get physical.
Yep.
So that's the end of segment 1 there, and surprisingly, nobody is on the verge of death. That is the one, I made sure to write that down. Nobody is dying. Nobody is under the threat of dying. It's all just kind of...
on someone screaming.
Right, it's intrigue instead of murder. So, okay, so we come back from commercial. This is the beginning of segment 2 here. Nobody's asking any questions as to what is going on here. It's just, I'm Purple Olivia Newton-John, I am Synergy. You gotta follow me. I also have written down here, when they leave in the van, it's the same shot of the van from like a minute ago when they were like pulling up to Starlight House before that scene.
Great.
Which I'm like, I understand. You gotta kind of recycle animation sometimes, but that was, and technically it was like a week before the episode was shown, so I guess, I could let that one slide. Synergy leads them to the Starlight Drive-In Theater, which is, I guess, just a place that maybe... I mean, I guess Jerrica's dad owned it, right? Because he worked in there.
With the name, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Starlight is a pretty common thread throughout all of the... What
they don't tell us is that Starlight is actually an entire media company. And there's a whole other cartoon happening with all the other facets of it. We got the music one, we got the movie one, there's a whole big, television drama.
Don't worry about it.
Fighting sitcoms.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's a big media enterprise that Jerrica squandered the money immediately, so...
But we're talking about music. We're talking about Gem and the Holograms, not those other shows.
Do you blame Eric Raymond then for being pissed because Jerrica just, destroyed all this money?
They, definitely, there's no sort of, who is really the good guy here thing going on, so we can't make any assumptions without reaching way deeper than the show intended us to.
It's true. I mean, it's true. We're not meant to see Eric Raymond in a positive or sympathetic light at all. So, but I feel like that's my job, is I gotta be like, well, how does Eric feel about this?
What about this businessman?
What about this heartless devil?
What does anyone think about the corporation's feeling?
Yeah, come on, what about the corporation? Jeez. In any case...
Always sticking up for the little man. Yeah, and the orphans!
What about the orphans? Come on!
Fuck the orphans. Anyway. Fuck the orphans, anyway.
Fuck the orphans, but I digress. We're led into this, I guess, secret lab inside of just a big base as to where, under where they would project the movies, which isn't really how drive-ins are built.
Jerrica convinces Aja to drive into a solid-looking wall.
Which, for Aja, I think, Aja's in the right here for being like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I think Jerrica's reason is like, I have a feeling.
And that feeling could... I mean, to be fair, they're like...
Okay, Jerrica, it's your van.
To be fair, they're 3 feet away from the wall, so...
Yeah, I guess so.
So even if Aja did crash into it, nothing would happen. So they drive in, and it was a fake wall. Inside is this crazy lab. We learn that Synergy was a supercomputer built by Jerrica's father and for some reason.
And... He's Kimber's father, too.
Oh, excuse me. I often forget. Much like the Gem movie, I forget that Kimber is also Jerrica's sister.
Yeah.
I failed to mention that until this point. That's pretty important. Kimber is Jerrica's sister.
The show doesn't bring it up a lot either, except when they're fighting. They make it very clear that Kimber was not nearly as special as Jerrica to their father. So.
Which is really, whatever. We'll just leave that we'll just leave that there. It'll come up again. So Jerrica and Kimber's father created Synergy. For some reason, this computer that can create holograms, as well as he left a bunch of fashions for them, and a bunch of instruments.
Why not?
And a car that already says Gem on the hood.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I understand that they gotta sell toys. I understand that.
He had grand plans.
They can at least not have the Gem hood ornament on there until they become Gem and the Holograms.
Shame on you. No, they can't. Emmett had this all planned out. He knew. He was going to be Gem. And then he's like, oh, well, I guess not.
Well, I may as well make my daughter, my daughter that I prefer, the leader of this band. This fake band that I'm going to make with...
Since I can never be Gem.
If Emmett was going to be Gem, does that mean that Jerrica was going to be left out initially then, and everybody else was going to be in the band, or did he have another band ready?
Maybe the rest of the band was going to be actual holograms.
That's the other thing. Why? Well, I guess, can the holograms play instruments? The holograms can physically interact with stuff throughout the series, right?
The holograms can play some form of audio, because the holograms do speak.
That's true. Which we'll come to that later. I've got a question about that. I mean, it's also explained later as well. But Synergy shows off her powers just by, doing hologram stuff. I noticed that the noise that Synergy uses is a pitched down lightsaber noise.
Nice.
Like the sound of the lightsaber turning on. Basically, there's just all this shit here, and Jerrica gets the great idea. Hey, wait a minute, we could be a band. I see that there's a car here that says Gem on the hood.
See, you were giving them a lot of credit again, because these words don't come out of Jerrica's mouth.
No, they don't. No, she just says, I have an idea.
I have it, and in the next scene, she's like, Gem and the Holograms.
Yes, so this is all cobbled together fairly quickly, I would assume, because once again, Eric Raymond doesn't give any kind of time frame as to when, like, the Battle of the Bands is.
I'm
does
pretty
he?
sure
Does he
he
say next
said
week?
it. I think in the office scene, he said tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I could be wrong, though, but...
Alright, well, you know, whatever. So Battle of the Bands is tomorrow, so they literally, they cobble this plan together. It's probably past midnight when they find synergy. So this is a very last-minute kind of thing. And they have an entire song written and everything by then.
Luckily for them, I guess the Misfits aren't that good, so...
I guess.
Oh, they get to hear this other band playing across the way from the Misfits about to win their own Battle of the Bands.
Yes, we're introduced to the Limp Lizards.
I didn't realize they showed up in the first episode, because they do come back later.
They do, and the Limp Lizards are just, they look so greasy. They are very they're all tall and kind of lanky and weird looking, and they play a song called Broken Glass, which features the sound of broken glass. And to show you that they're not very good, they cut to the crowd, who is just...
The crowd of 9 people.
About 9 people who are incredibly pissed that they came to this Battle of the Bands, and everybody else sucks except for the Misfits. Including the bands, the Leatherettes, who one of them looks like Evil Lynn from He-Man, except instead of having it like a headdress, her hair is actually like kind of like all spiked out like that.
The Leatherettes is a great name for a band.
It is, and
I want my
they look
band
pretty
to be
decent.
named that.
They look good. The Space Cadets look terrible. That's the other band.
Yeah.
That's another thing. This Battle of the Bands has 4 bands in it. Yeah, an extensive and they all. I guess Eric Raymond couldn't find any bands that suck, so he just got those 3. But Eric Raymond's about to, introduce the winner of the Battle of the Bands. He's, everybody, he's basically about to announce the Misfits win because people actually like the Misfits. Mm-hmm. And then, boom! For some reason, people didn't notice that there was an entire stage being erected across the street, basically. And here are Gem and the Holograms. They start with their song, which we're going to play for you right now. Only the beginning.
Winners of the first annual Starlight Battle of the Bands are...
There's music in the air, news is in the making, music in the air, something big is breaking. Wow, look around at the sight and sound. Did we take you by surprise that you can't believe your eyes? Oh, wow, well this is only the beginning, only the beginning. Now's the time when our star's gonna climb. Watch us try for the prize. We're already on the rise. Well, this is only the beginning, only the beginning, only the beginning, only the beginning, only the beginning. Wow, look around at the sight and sound. Did we take you by surprise that you can't believe your eyes? Oh, wow, well this is only the beginning, only the beginning. Now's the time when our star's gonna climb. Watch us try for the prize. We're already on the rise. Well, this is only the beginning, 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 only the beginning.
Okay, so that was only the beginning, and it's quite literally, that's only the beginning. It's, there's a lot of good things coming for Gem and the Holograms.
A lot more druggy visuals.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stars and stuff. There's a shot of them walking into a castle for some reason. There's a castle door that comes down, and they walk in, and that's the entire shot.
This is the one where they're in the claw machine too, right?
Yeah, I have that written down here that they have a crane game where they win themselves.
Yeah, one of the things that always bugs me about the music videos in the series is they do weird things with visuals about the scale of people.
They do, which we come into
me out a little bit.
We come into that with the Misfits song, the next Misfits song later, and it's actually a good song, which is the reason that I chose to include it in here, because the other Misfits ones are pretty rough.
They're subpar, so this is one of the few times that the hologram song is like pretty marginally better than the Misfits.
Right, I would say.
I'm partial to the Misfits.
Yeah, well, as they say in the theme song, their songs are better, and I wouldn't dispute that. Their songs are better most of the time.
You want to tell Pizzazz she's rocked to her face? You go ahead and try that.
That's true.
See
That's
what
the other
goes
thing.
for
You might die.
Yeah.
Pizzazz seems like the kind of person who would just like headbutt you and just it would cave in your skull and it would be terrible.
She would bite your ear.
go the old Mike Tyson route, which
Yeah, just bite it right off.
predating Mike Tyson doing that by 10 years at this point or more. So she's really the
He
innovator
stole that from
of the
his
ear
ass.
bite. Yes, exactly. This thing that she never did that we're talking about as if she did it.
Mhm.
So that was only the beginning. Jerrica takes the time. She's now Gem, by the way. You might notice that, it's the 3 other girls and this woman with pink hair who we've never seen before, who is Gem. Well, I guess she was in the opening, so we know that she's Gem, and we're aware that Jerrica is Gem via the flashback. So it's okay. So it's not that much of a stretch.
If it's supposed to be a surprise, they did a bad job.
Yes. Gem, while introducing the holograms, moves the microphone away from her mouth, but it still sounds like it's coming through a microphone.
Perfect.
Eric's completely pissed because, one, he doesn't know who any of these people are, and there's just this band here that is completely outshining the Misfits, because I guess they played Out of My Way and people were kind of lukewarm on it probably, and here comes Only the Beginning, which is actually good, and they're like, oh well, what's this going on over here?
So honestly, the holograms are like blowing up Eric's spot a little.
Yeah, well, obviously they're causing problems for him, which is something that Eric Raymond did not think would happen, and Eric is like, what are you doing here? Gem goes, she invited me, points to the opposite stage where everyone was before, and uses synergy to create a hologram of Jerrica.
And there's like a 10-second delay of her going, okay, now make a hologram after I've pointed over there.
Right, and this is the thing. This is obviously Jerrica should have been found out right now, because it is honestly it's the worst attempt ever, I think, to cover up, because then she runs off the stage as Gem to go behind like 2 trees and turn back into Jerrica to go over to that stage where the hologram was, and the hologram's gone now, and she runs up to Eric and is just like, yeah, it was me. Like, did Eric take his eyes off the Jerrica hologram?
Best thought out plan. She's just like, why'd you disappear and now you're here again? That's confusing. Where's the pink-haired lady?
Right. This is where...
And then the show is over.
He could. Well,
so I guess that's why this plan works. It's because we need a show.
And now probably would be a good time to know, like, what are the stakes of people not knowing Jerrica is Gem?
There aren't any.
There aren't, which is like, even if she was found out, like, it would be like, oh, so the half owner. I mean, like, is there some kind of like, can the owner of a record company not be a part of the bands?
The show really makes it try to seem like the main appeal of Gem and the Holograms is that Gem is mysterious. So they think, like, once she's not mysterious anymore, that'll somehow
stop their music
everything.
From being good.
I'm not saying it's a good excuse. Well, it wasn't very good to begin with, so.
Right, and I that's... So they share this little conversation about, oh, you think your holograms are good? Well, I got the Misfits. And Eric, for no reason at all, challenges Jerrica to another Battle of the Bands in 6 months, which this gets all over the PA system for some reason. Nobody's holding a microphone. I mean, there were like 4 bands, so I mean, I guess if this was some big event, there should have been more than 9 people there. I mean, like 2 seconds later, some like movie executive comes out. So, like, this seems like it should have been a big event, but there were like 10 people there.
I guess I know it's not established at this point, but the show takes place in California, right?
I don't think they say specifically, but it seems like it's one of those kind.
They do.
There's the ocean. The ocean's there, so it seems like California.
So I guess, like, it's not totally unbelievable that in a city where there would be these big record companies, dudes in sunglasses are hanging out, getting ready to start offering movie deals and just filming things.
Movie deals and a mansion.
Yeah.
Whoever wins the Battle of the Bands gets a mansion.
Sure, it's like, I have this mansion that the feds are going to start looking into, so I got to get rid of this pretty quick.
Yeah, maybe
I'll
like
give it away.
Is it a tax write-off, maybe? If I give some girl band a mansion, they'll, I don't have to pay for it.
Then, my knees won't get broken.
Yeah, maybe he's got some loan shark stuff going on.
It's possible shakedown in that guy's future, and he's like, this mansion's gotta go.
It's all very suspect, but nobody really, bats an eyelash at it. And I mean, I guess I don't blame them.
To be fair, if somebody was like, I'll give you a mansion, yeah, I'll go. Hot damn.
A mansion and a movie deal. And we forgot to mention, whoever wins gets full control of Starlight music as well.
Sign me up.
Like,
I'm in.
Yeah, no, I'm in too. It's like, what's stopping me?
So, thanks to Eric opening his big dumb mouth. Now all of this is at stake.
He basically, dug himself into a giant hole, because it seems pretty obvious to start out, too, that I'm pretty sure because of his reaction, he knows that the holograms are better.
Well, yeah. I need 6 months to fix the Misfits.
Well, I mean, when they're writing songs like "Out of My Way," and and as we see later, winning is everything. They do need to step their game up a bit.
They need to write about more than one subject.
They do. They need to write about more than just being really great at everything and really awesome.
Yeah, that works a couple of times. They do eventually get more hate into their songs, so I guess the diversity is coming slowly but surely.
Living up to their image of the Misfits.
Something like immediately after this, they just start stealing all of their equipment, right?
Yes, they do. They the Misfits are on stage and they are just stealing all of Gem and the Holograms' equipment because the Holograms left the stage for some reason. They get in the Rock and Roadster and they start like going after them. Stormer and Roxy are throwing instruments at the Rock and Roadster. They're driving along some kind of like scenic seaside cliff, which is near this park, I guess.
And I'm gonna point this out right now. Shayna's driving.
Shayna's driving at this part?
Yes, she is.
I did not notice because
they say Aja was driving, and I wrote that's racist. Because Roxy literally goes, "It's not my fault. Aja sucks at driving."
Right, which I don't know if it's racist for the time, but definitely now comes out pretty inadvertently racist.
Whoa, Roxy.
Like, oh, hey, whoa, wow. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here because the end of
yes,
segment 2.
Yes, we are. I'm sorry, but I wanted to point that out because I was watching and I was like, wait.
No, believe me,
usually Aja's driving.
I have that written down too. So it's definitely Roxy stepping on the line pretty quickly. She is from Philadelphia, so
yeah. So she's hard.
Yeah, she is hard and will be racist for no reason. Mm-hmm. So the Misfits end up leading the Rock and Roadster basically to drive off a cliff, or well, not off a cliff. And
there's no. I understand that they're getting like instruments thrown at them, but you don't really see any reason for them to start driving off the road towards this cliff. They just kind of end up on that path because Shayna is bad at driving, I guess.
Which is why Aja drives
and
most
so
of the
Aja
time.
should have been driving.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, that's why we never see her drive again, I guess. Mostly. So yeah, they are dangling off of this cliff, and they cannot move because the weight will make them fly right off.
Right. There was a commercial break there, too. So here's our first instance of death, is they look like they're going to drive off the cliff.
I was surprised Kimber didn't scream. Because usually Kimber screams.
Kimber usually screams at the commercial break, but this time they were just kind of like, "We're gonna crash," which is not true because they're gonna drive off the cliff before they crash.
You're gonna fall off the cliff and then crash.
Right, exactly.
They're getting ahead of themselves.
Which, I mean, I guess if I were in that situation, I would say that too, probably, because I don't want to worry about driving off the cliff. I want to worry about the aftermath of that.
Yeah, what's going to happen afterwards?
Maybe we'll fly. Maybe the Rock and Roadster can fly.
This could be awesome.
Well, then at that point, then Kimber shouldn't have even said we're going to crash, because then maybe she could have been like, we might survive.
Yeah, that should have been responded to with, Kimber, don't be such a pessimist. This could be great.
This could be great. So they're hanging on this cliff, and they try to move. They can't do anything. Rio is their only hope now. Jerrica uses her earring to create a hologram of Gem that can talk, which I guess it explains why she didn't create a hologram of Jerrica that could talk before.
Who knows?
Because she has to ask Synergy.
My issue with this hologram of Gem is that her arms are absolutely gigantic.
They are. She looks about 10 feet tall as Rio is driving down the road to find them.
Yeah. She's waving her arms over her head as if Rio wouldn't see a woman standing in the middle of the road, which, it's Rio, so who really knows?
Who is wearing pink and has pink hair.
Yeah, just waving her arms, which are stretching as she waves them. And she just looks like a horrifying monster, so I'm surprised Rio just didn't try to hit the hologram. It's like, oh, kill it!
This is like, oh, I found the Jersey Devil, I'm gonna run it over. Yeah. Here in California.
You won't hurt anyone ever again.
Exactly, there we go, perfect.
But Rio saves the day, which is more or less his role.
Yeah, Rio's just...
He swaggers in with his purple hair, and he's like, I'll do it, I have a rope.
He does, he's got a rope in his car, thankfully, because he's generic handyman-like guy, kinda.
Now I feel like I should start keeping track of how many times Rio saves the day with a rope. Because I feel like he does that. I think so. Or like, this cable, I will use it and swing from it as if it were a rope.
Right, yeah, I remember that happens in the movie episode. There's a wonderful thing that happens there. So, Rio saves the day, and somebody takes a picture of him with the rope from the perspective of somebody who would be in the car falling from the cliff, and it gets in the newspaper, and Eric just says, you gave the holograms a bunch of free press, and you're lucky she didn't call the police, which really... The Misfits are incredibly lucky that nobody calls the police on them throughout the entire series, other than maybe one time, and when they do get arrested that one time, they're innocent.
Yeah, Yeah, they get wrongfully arrested once in the series, I think. But otherwise, no one calls the cops on the Misfits. And anyway, you think the Misfits are afraid of the cops? Hell no!
Probably not. I believe the one time that they did get grabbed by the cops, Pizzazz definitely was defiantly like, "Get your hands off me!"
Yeah, she's like that anytime anyone touches her.
That's true.
Or anytime anyone refuses to touch her when she wants them to. Which is
so she says,
funny
"Get your
when you
hands."
think about it.
So she says, "Get your hands off me," when no hands are even on her.
Well, no, not when she, like, in the series multiple times goes out of her way to try and schmooze at Rio, because who wouldn't want a piece of that?
Piece of that purple.
She gets really mad when he's like, "No pizzazz."
Well, she can't take rejection very well, clearly.
No, she definitely cannot.
Well, here we get into the third song of the evening, Winning is Everything, which is much like Out of My Way in that they repeat winning is everything, winning is everything, winning is everything about 27 times. And
Pizzazz is dressed like a football player.
Well, that's one of the things
Which
that
I don't think that only happens once in the series. I
No,
feel like
there's
she dresses up as a football player multiple times.
There are multiple instances where Pizzazz is a football player, and in this music video in particular, she hatches out of a giant football and is herself gigantic, which is a common theme throughout a lot of Misfits music videos, is Pizzazz is a giantess, basically.
Pizzazz is a huge Amazon woman.
With green and yellow hair.
And a thirst for blood.
And there's a close-up of her teeth as they zoom in on her. And it's just a very kind of awkward music video, and not a lot happens. And apparently they were performing this song in front of Eric, because the song ends and Eric's clapping and he's like, that's great. If you keep singing songs like that, we're not going to have anything to worry about. And they are dancing too as well.
And they're on a loop, dancing very poorly. Like, they just took something at the club and weren't sure what the hell's going on.
Right. There really wasn't much of a reason for that scene either, other than to have the song, because it's quite literally Eric going, "Why'd you do that?" And then they sing a song, and he's like, "All right, I don't think we have anything to worry about."
That wasn't an appropriate explanation, but okay. You guys did just write that song
on the
off
spot.
The top of your head, so yeah.
Maybe that's why it was so bad, because Stormer didn't write it.
I guess you're not totally hopeless.
So we cut back to the Starlight house at this point, and we get the introduction of most of the orphans. Bonnie, who is the Asian one, I guess. No point in sugarcoating it. Deirdre.
I was going to say blind.
She's not blind.
But we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk. Bonnie will have the threat of blindness. That has not happened yet. Deirdre has a hat. That is how we know who she is. Chrissy is the African American one there, who is getting the tips from everyone, and Ashley's a bitch.
So I was gonna say, can I say how we know who Ashley is? But you already got there before me. Ashley's a bitch.
It's literally
she's the OG. The OG little bitch. Written Gem and the Holograms.
Written down in my notes exactly like that. Ashley is a bitch.
Yep.
Because she
she's a foster kid. So maybe she is a better reason than certain characters to not behave very well, but she's still the worst.
There's also a Starlight girl there that has a shitty haircut and a stupid voice, and I don't know her name. The one who explains to Ashley...
Well, we'll probably never see her again, so...
Yeah. Usually they keep pretty good track of the Starlight girls, but I think beyond Ashley, Chrissy...
Occasionally there are stock orphans.
Yes, and the drug one, of course. So, they're saving money in this jar to buy a new refrigerator, because apparently the one that they have in Starlight House is broken. So everything's really going to shit at Starlight House right now. There's no electricity. There's no fridge.
These orphans are dying.
These orphans are dying before them. Gem of the Holograms...
They are raising their own money because Jerrica is that useless.
Yes, Gem and the Holograms, despite bursting on the scene just now, don't have any money. They have 6 months before they can get any money. But this is all kind of swept under the rug. And yeah, they're using orphan labor to get money for a refrigerator, which Ashley does not care about because, whatever.
Because she steals all her food.
Does she? Do you want to put that in writing?
Yes. Because you know what? Probably.
I would not be surprised.
And you suddenly do the big Ashley defender. Oh no, she doesn't steal things.
I'm gonna use this podcast. I'm gonna defend Eric Raymond. I'm gonna defend Ashley. I'm gonna defend the woman in Eastern Europe who tries to murder Kimber. I'm gonna defend Zipper.
You know what's gonna happen after that, Joe? You know what's gonna happen?
What?
After all of that, you're gonna go to hell.
So, all right. So there's this nice little, just a sweet little, I say sweet in air quotes, I guess, exchange between Jerrica and Rio, where Rio is just like, oh, I'm a providing boyfriend, whatever. I'm okay. Here is where I have written down, Jerrica should probably tell Rio she's Gem. Here's a good opportunity.
You know what? That would have been an opportune moment.
Here is a very good opportunity to let Rio Pacheco, her boyfriend, probably number 4 on the ladder of people that she trusts and cares about, that she is Gem.
Jerrica, let your boyfriend in.
Maybe, I mean, would you say that Jerrica probably cares more about Rio than Shayna or Aja? Maybe?
I don't... Not really, because when he is mean to people in general, she's not cool with it.
That's true. I can't think of a moment throughout the series where Jerrica gets, like, angry at Aja or Shayna.
Yeah, not really. Like, there are a couple of, like, episode contrived disagreements that don't really actually
Nothing
count.
where, like, they're acting like jerks and Jerrica isn't. I mean, that's the thing. Usually if Jerrica's getting angry at someone, she's being an asshole. So, all right, so they share this little tender moment here, and we get to back to Eric Raymond, who is on the phone with a man named Zipper, and it's his job to make people nervous, which I have written down here. Zipper's specialty is to make people nervous, so he must be insert joke here. I did not think of a joke, so take of that what you will.
That means there's a reason that Zipper gets phased out eventually.
Well, I mean, literally the last time we see him is him leaving Kimber in a volcano. So I think after that they were like, if we don't stop, Zipper's gonna murder somebody.
Yeah, they lose the need for a knee breaker employed by Eric Raymond at some point because they just all do their own dirty work. So
also they can get Tech Rat, who just makes robots and shit and stupid machines.
Yeah,
that's a lot safer than having. That's a lot safer than a guy who will leave Kimber in a volcano.
And set things on fire.
Yes, and set things on fire. It's also worth noting that Zipper is voiced by Charlie Adler, and Eric Raymond is voiced by Charlie Adler, so he's talking to himself in this scene.
Isn't Tech Rat voiced by Charlie Adler as well?
Tech Rat is also Charlie Adler. Any male role that's not Rio, I think, is voiced by Charlie Adler, like 90% of the roles.
So he talks to himself a lot when he's doing his evil plotting.
In classic Charlie Adler fashion.
Yep.
So we cut back. Ashley is stealing money from the jar for no reason. Literally no reason for her to do it. She just takes it out and she's just like, yeah, bingo. And then they catch her doing it.
Yeah, it's because she's Ashley and she's terrible.
Because she's being a bitch for no reason. And the Starlight girls have to give her punishment, which is she has to earn $30, which I guess in 80s money is like $500, because she seems pretty angry about having to actually earn money.
Yeah, that's a tall order for anyone in this economy.
The next note I have written down here is Jerrica asks the Starlight girls if they're jealous of the fact that she has Rio as a boyfriend, and quite honestly, they shouldn't be jealous of anything involving Rio.
Yeah, I wrote jealous orphans in my notes with 2 question marks.
Well, 1 through 12, so...
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, when you're talking about orphans being jealous about things, I was thinking, Jerrica, you don't have parents either, so...
Well,
I don't know what she was really looking for there.
I don't think she was dangling that in front of their face, so like, oh, I have a dad.
No, I don't think that was her intention. But in general, if she's saying, are you guys jealous of me? It's like, well, we're kind of actually on a pretty level playing field besides the fact that you're dating Rio and I'm not, so... Yeah,
and she owns a record company, so it kind of evens out, really.
She's being mean to orphans. I forgot to mention this before, but in the scene with Zipper on the phone with his terrible sunglasses, I did mention that most of the chairs that I've seen in this episode so far look like they belong at my college, and I go to an art school, so we have some really stupid-looking modern furniture here.
I noticed that Eric Raymond has a beanbag chair in his office. That is one thing that I noticed when the Misfits were introduced. After their song, I believe Pizzazz is just like on a beanbag chair. Or what looks like a beanbag chair.
Yeah, that looked like a pair of lips to me, like a lip couch.
Why would Emmett Benson have a lip couch?
I was gonna say, is it creepier to think, well, that's creepy that Eric would have a lip couch, or is it, why would Emmett have a lip couch? Either way, if you're a grown man and you own a company, don't have a lip couch.
He's a music mogul. He can do what he wants.
Well, I suppose so. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna judge him for it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But all right, we got the final scene here of the night. It's dark out. Zipper's coming to cause some trouble. He breaks into Starlight House. One of the orphans wakes up Jerrica, and they catch him just stealing random shit. He's just like, he's got like a candelabra and...
Yeah!
just like this...
fuck Hanukkah, I guess.
All this odd garbage. And after being found out, he runs like straight shot into Kimber, who is the only person holding a lantern, mind you, to knock it out of her hands,
Yep.
and the house goes up in flames and everyone's dead. That's the end of episode 1.
Yep. Just immediately, big fire. Everyone's dead. And he
Everyone's
jumps
dead.
out the window.
I did notice that, and good job there, Zipper, for being a big old athletic dude. But
One of my favorite games that I played with myself, watching through the series, was okay, the situation's going down. Is someone about to jump out of a window to escape this situation?
I do remember quite a bit of window jumping going on, so we have that to look forward to as well.
It's a good exit strategy.
So, all right, that was that. That was episode 1 of Gem. It was the beginning. Next time, we've got disaster, which thankfully is not a word I would use to describe the whole series, or the series as a whole, I should say.
Yeah, well, as far as thematically, we're just going from 0 to 60, aren't we? First
Right.
is the beginning, and then second episode is a disaster, so...
Well, you got to think, like, how much of a disaster...
They're not wasting any time.
How much of a disaster was the beginning?
Well, it went okay until the end there when everything caught on fire and everyone died.
Well, they also almost died driving off a cliff, so... But, here's the part where that was episode 1 of Swatage, the inaugural Swatage. Here's where we're going to tell you where you can find us on various social media platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at cwtapod.
And you can find me on my public at funnygirltm, like trademark.
And you can find me at Octopus. That is AWKTAPUS. And that's a pun. Do you like the pun?
I like the pun.
That's a good pun. All right, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher Radio. You can find us just about anywhere except the kitchen sink.
I don't want to be on this podcast anymore.
So, all right, that's that. That was episode 1 of Swatage. I am Joe, my co-host.
I'm Kristen, and I'm not coming back.
She's gone. She's leaving. I hope she comes back. And,
I'm not.
All right, well, just in case she does, join me next time where we will talk about more Gem.
Bye forever, guys.